And Kirk Smallwood, the floor is yours.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dennis. It's always a pleasure to speaking with you, and I appreciate the invite to talk to your wonderful group. It's always an honor to talk to you guys. I'm going to start off. I never like to assume people know everything about CompTIA. There's a lot of stuff that we do, but we're a global not-for-profit IT association. We've been around since about 1982, I believe it is, and we're a membership organization. I think most people know us by, if you ask most people, if you did a survey, they'd probably say, "Oh yeah, I've heard of your certifications." But there's a lot more that we do. Again, we're a not-for-profit. But we have members as well, ranging from some of the largest tech companies in the world, but mostly some of the smallest. So a lot of small to medium-sized IT organizations, VARs, resellers, whatever you want to call them. And we provide a lot of great resources for them. So there's various communities they can serve in, whether it's around, advancing women in IT or cybersecurity or what have you. A lot of different communities and councils that help us get feedback about what's happening in their neck of the woods in terms of the industry and where they're facing issues, where they need support. And really, they help drive a lot of our initiatives that we do to help grow the industry. Education for a lot of these small organizations, they're really technologically savvy, but they don't necessarily know how to run a business really effectively. There may not be their sweet spot. So we provide a lot of education around that, resources, HR toolkits, hiring tips, best practices. And especially, and this goes into the next thing that we do is thought leadership. So we provide a lot of great research. I'm going to cover some of that today, which you guys can take advantage of anytime you want, that you may not know about. But a lot of research in terms of trends, job hiring, what are views of HR people that are doing the hiring, technology, emerging tech, business trends, all kinds of really great stuff that you guys, again, can access whenever you want. And I'll go over that stuff a little bit later. Certifications, we're the largest vendor neutral IT certification body in the world. Our first certification was A+, that was started back in 1992 or three, I forget, but it's been around a long time. And since then, we've created a whole bunch more. So that's probably what we're most well known for, which is fine, but it's certainly not the only thing. And that revenue that we bring in from the certifications helps power a lot of these other great resources and programs that we do. And then we also have a foundation called CompTIA Spark. I'll talk about that a little bit more later, but that provides free programming, especially for middle school aged folks, to get them interested and engaged and presented with technology to help them hopefully consider a possible career in IT. So let's talk a little about first the state of the tech industry. So right now you've got 163 million total people in the U.S. workforce in all jobs. Then you've got 37 million people that are what we call career curious. Like they are not actively necessarily looking for a new job, but they would be open to it if the right job approached them or if they stumbled upon it. But they're kind of passively looking like, I'm not thrilled with my job, but I'm not really actively looking for something new. Then we have career intent, and we have 44 million of these folks. These are folks that are actively looking for new jobs, and we want to capture as many of these people as possible to consider IT. I'll talk about some of the problems with that a little bit later, some of the challenges we have with those folks in particular. I'll talk about some things that we're doing. But 44 million people out there, they're actively looking for new careers. And then you have 13 million people that are in the tech workforce or tech intent, meaning they're either currently working in tech or they're intending to take a job into tech. So that's 13 million. And we need, as I'll show you, far more than that. So the tech workforce growth has been tremendous. And we project this, if you look at on the left, we don't see this slowing down anytime soon. Over the next 10 years, we project continued growth in the tech workforce. And this is even considering all the retirements and turnover that will take place. We need to fill those, but even on top of that, there will be growth in just organically and companies getting bigger and more companies adopting IT workers to help them with their IT needs. And then emerging tech growth. There's just so much of that. You can see on the right side, the growth projection of these different IT types of roles relative to the national rate, just tremendous, tremendous growth in all of these, especially in data, cybersecurity, software developers. All three of those will be continue to probably lead the way. But then even look at the bottom, IT support specialists at 21%. that's still really good growth, and that's a role that's been around forever. And the reason you're continuing to see growth in that is, again, there's more and more need for people that can provide help desk support, but that's also a role that's a stepping stone to other, it's an entry level position and also a stepping stone to other IT careers. So there's constant churn in the need for IT support specialists, but there's also a need for just more of those overall as more and more companies are increasing their need for tech support. If you look at the left-hand side chart, I just want to emphasize just how stable the unemployment rate has been on tech jobs. The purple, or whatever color that is, I guess we'll call it purple, is the national rate of all jobs. And of course, that big spike you see there, that was during the heart of COVID. But if you notice the bar below that, or the line below that is for tech jobs. And you notice, although that spikes some, not nearly as much as the overall national job rate. So it's maintained a really stable path here. And of course, there are ups and downs in terms of, month to month. But overall, you're seeing it stabilize, around that, sometimes even below 2%. But I think currently it's about maybe 2.5% tech unemployment compared to like closer to 3.6, 4% around, again, fluctuates here and there a little bit. But you're just seeing a real stability when it comes to tech jobs. And that's from growth hiring. It's from backfill hiring. There's a lot of churn in terms of people jumping from one tech company to another that has to be accounted for. And those far outweigh, the layoffs, the termination to skills gaps, and hiring freezes. So you're just continuing to see it be really stable. And speaking of stable, there is, certainly not destabilizing, but there's such a huge need for cybersecurity jobs. So there are approximately 575,000 employer job postings during 2023 alone for cybersecurity professionals, but there was a shortfall of 315,000. So we didn't come anywhere close to filling the demand of cybersecurity jobs last year. So that's a bad thing, but it's also a positive sign in a way, because you're looking at the fact that more and more companies are hiring cybersecurity workers. They're recognizing that maybe they have not kept up with the industry and their investments, and they're now committing to improving their defenses and investing in people that have those cybersecurity skills and professionals. So that's a good thing, because cybersecurity is a collective thing, right? If it's kind of one of those things where we're only as good as our weakest link. And if more and more people are investing in this, that's a good thing. If we can eliminate those cyber breaches, that affects everybody. No surprises, but I don't think, at least because I live in this area, but Washington, D.C. metro area is the largest cybersecurity hub in the country. You've got the federal government there, which is doing tons of hiring, lots of tech companies in this area, lots of data centers as well. But then, of course, New York City, Dallas, Chicago, Los Angeles, those continue to be big tech hubs, but there's some under the radar areas as well. They're emerging, places like Charlotte, Tampa, St. Louis, Colorado Springs, Huntsville, Alabama, Lansing, Michigan, Boise, Idaho, Las Vegas, Des Moines. You're seeing some kind of emerging cybersecurity hubs around the U.S., which is cool. It's always cool to see other markets grow in terms of their tech jobs. And then in terms of preparing for the knowns and unknowns of AI, you've probably heard the term AI more than you care to. I mean, it's everywhere now. And there's just been so much discussion about AI, generative AI, how this is going to affect business, jobs. Is it going to put people out of jobs? All these kind of things. You're just seeing so much about it. And you are, in fact, seeing, approximately 240,000 job postings involving AI skills last year. But, keep in mind, I mean, that's a big figure, but it's still about 1% of all job postings. So it's still kind of in the niche phase still, even though that looks like a big number, and it will continue to grow, no doubt, but just still keep in mind, this is still early days in terms of AI. And, our survey results show this as well, with 75% of companies reporting that they are either exploring or cautious adopters of AI. So there's still a feeling out process here. And some, of course, will be faster to adopt than others, but there's still a lot of kind of figuring out as far as what's going on there. And that includes us. There's a lot of AI job roles that are still TBD or still emerging. And before we launch a whole bunch of certifications in AI, we're going to make sure we understand what those specific job roles are, because our certifications map to job roles. So this is really interesting and fascinating, and we're going to continue to hear more about this. We do have a new, I would say, a credential, not a certification, coming out this year in a category we call CompTIA Essentials, and AI will be one of those. And this is for employees who want to upskill their knowledge around certain areas, and AI, of course, is one of those in which we're focusing on. So look for more news on that in the next year. But these are kind of people that need to be, have some technology competence to do their job. They're not necessarily IT workers, but they need some competence in doing this. In terms of tech occupation wages, one of the sometimes pushbacks we hear is like, well, there's so many tech jobs open out there because they don't pay well. And that's actually the opposite is true. Median tech wages are 103% higher than median national wages of non-tech jobs. So that's really cool. With demand comes better salaries, and that's certainly the case in tech. On the right, you're seeing just tons of emerging tech demand ramps up. We talked about AI. But there's even things like machine learning, AI. There's always new technologies. They're always driving tech, and I think that's what's so exciting about the tech industry is there's really something for everyone. And if you wait long enough, there's some new technology coming out. I mean, Apple introduced their new Vision headset. I think people are just like, wow, okay, now I'm starting to see what the future might be like. So there's just always these key new technologies and emerging tech jobs that are just really exciting and make the tech field so cool. Now, if you look at on the left side, the tech workforce characteristics, the numbers on the bottom, 12, 17, and 49. So if you're looking at all jobs in the US, Black African Americans make up 12% of those, Hispanic Latinos make up 17%, and women make up about half of those. But if you look at tech occupations, we have some work to do. So 8% of tech jobs are made up of Black African Americans, 8% Hispanic Latino, 26% women. So we've got some work to do, but there's also a lot of opportunity for each of these groups to get into tech. And we'll talk about, again, there's kind of a confidence gap, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But it's nice to see that within companies, you're seeing an effort to increase talent mobility. In other words, you've got 38% of companies that say they have a formal talent mobility program in place or policies to upskill their employees. 37% have an informal policy in place, but at least they have, kind of something. And then unfortunately, you're still seeing 24% that have no talent or mobility policies in place. And those companies, I would say, need to ramp that up quickly because they're going to be left behind. The main areas that are factoring that factor into these efforts are they want to. I would say staff retention is a really big one. There is just so much churn and kind of poaching in the IT space where you're just jumping from one company to another, and that costs a lot of money. In other words, if you have to replace somebody that jumps, that costs a lot more than simply upskilling your current employees to be able to do that next level job. So it saves a lot of time and cost from hiring externally. It also just reinforces a really positive culture. I mean, if you work for a company that takes an active participation in upskilling you, making you a better worker, giving you extra credentials, et cetera, you're going to want to stay with that company. I know, I've been with CompTIA 15 years, and they take a really active approach in giving us all the tools and resources we can to continue to learn and improve. I don't have any reason to leave CompTIA. It's just that makes me feel really wanted. And I think more companies are realizing that that's kind of a necessary thing they need to do to keep the employees that they have. The nice thing is you're seeing 67% of companies are planning to increase spending in terms of those that are using industry recognized certifications. There's still 45% of HR professionals reporting challenges and effectively connecting the training to business outcomes. In other words, like, okay, we spent this extra time and money on upskilling our employees. How do we truly show how that was well spent? So people are still struggling with trying to show how that's affecting things. On the middle chart, I would say the 10% that say they're decreasing training spending and training time, I would question whether they're going to be in business in the near future. Because if you think about it, if you're not spending that time and effort on improving your employees, they're going to leave. A, or B, worse, maybe they're going to stay. And then your IT team is not going to be up to speed on the latest, say, cybersecurity breaches or how to protect and keep your company running the most effectively it can. And then, when your company falters, you have cyber breaches, then you've got to explain to your partners, your customers, why that happened, and you're going to lose confidence in that company. So those 10% that are not doing anything, I question their existence. I think they may go the way of the dodo soon. And the nice thing is you're seeing more and more emphasis on earning certifications. And this is what the job seekers are looking for. They're looking for companies that help them get more technical expertise, get more in-demand technical skill, and have a pathway to an advancing career. So you have to be aware of that. So you're also seeing just an overall increase in the need for digital skills, whether those be basic or advanced. So on the left side, you see the tech workforce, people that are doing tech jobs. But then there's this whole other group of the tech-enabled digital workforce. These are not tech workers, but these are folks using technology to do their jobs. And that bubble, that sphere keeps growing and growing because, I know for me, I need to know how to use Microsoft Dynamics and Power BI and other technology to do my job. And that's true of just about everybody these days, right? The remaining workforce, that may be, more things like manual labor or things like that. But for a really growing part of the U.S. the worldwide workforce, you're seeing people needing to have tech-enabled skills, the ability to work with those different types of technological tools to do their business. And those digitally intensive jobs are growing twice as fast as other middle skill jobs. So that's something to keep in mind. There's just no shortage for a need of digital skills, almost no matter what the job is. And then when you talk to different groups in terms of the workforce, whether it be baby boomers or Gen Z, they themselves recognize that they need to have more digital skills. 86% of them rank digital skills as being important to their job or to the job that they're seeking to get. What's kind of interesting is when I first looked at this, it kind of threw me off because I would have thought like baby boomers would have seen, less emphasis on digital skills and that Gen Z would have seen maybe more. But I think Gen Z, they've always had digital skills, right? They've pretty much been born into it. So I think they just see digital skills as just skills. I don't know if they necessarily consider like, oh, there's digital skills and there's other skills. They just see digital skills as skills. So I think there's maybe, kind of an issue with the definition there. Whereas baby boomers are like, okay, wow, they grew up in a time where there wasn't all this technology. And now they need to know this stuff. I mean, my mom, for example, she's, got an iPhone and a laptop, but only in the last 5 years. And she's always calling me to try to understand how to use some of these things, even on a basic level. So, everyone's recognizing that they need more digital skills. But, one of the main messages I want to get out to you today is that there is a confidence gap, though. And there's challenges on both sides, on both the hiring side and in the job seekers. So 6 in 10 people think that an IT career would be the most challenging industry to break into for various reasons. And what stinks is there's pretty much 20 million people that are career intent. We talked about them before, that are essentially just ruling out tech as a potential career because they think, oh, I've got to be good at science or math, or I need a 4-year degree, or I've got to work for a tech company, or I've got to be a man, or whatever. There's so many of these confidence gap issues that people just think, well, I wouldn't be good at tech. And that breaks my heart because there's so many opportunities for, I think almost anyone could work in tech. Then on the same side, but by the same token, on the other side of the fence, you've got this unicorn candidate issue with companies doing the hiring, and they are completely overspecking the job roles in many cases, saying that like, oh, for this entry level IT role, we need somebody with a master's degree or like 3 years of experience. And it's like, no, no, you don't. You actually do not. And so the workers are seeing this and being like, well, shoot, I don't have that experience. I can't do that job. When in fact, if the employers really understood like what they're looking for and that they don't necessarily need somebody with like a 4-year degree for this entry level tech job, that they would find many more workers to fill some of these jobs. So it's a double edged sword. You've got a confidence gap, and you've got companies that are not necessarily advertising adequately for the people that they're looking for. And I'll talk about later on a tool that we created that we hope will make a dent into this. There's just, as mentioned, there's just a lot of work to do. You're seeing 1 in 4 job postings for cyber positions that really require 0 to 3 work experience, specifying like high level managerial type certifications or experience. And this is just wrong. And it's shooing people away from considering tech jobs because they're looking at these job postings, things like, well, I don't have that. I guess tech's just not for me. And so we have to work with employers to help them understand, like, okay, this is what an accurate job posting should be for this role. And again, I'm going to show you a tool in a little bit that we developed to help with that. We're also seeing an increase in HR reliance on certifications during the hiring process, which is great. You're seeing 80% of HR individuals relying on certifications because they save a lot. They save them, the folks that are doing the hiring, a lot of time and money in the screening process. If you have CompTIA Security Plus, that's a seal of approval basically from the industry saying you have the knowledge, skills, and abilities to do, these various job roles. So they're recognizing this, which is great. And it's really more of an up-to-date assessment of current technologies than 4-year degrees. Unfortunately, 4-year degree programs are a little bit slow to change their curriculum to match what's going on in the IT workforce versus certifications. We have to change our certifications every 3 years, no matter what, because they're ANSI ISO accredited. So our certifications, and you could argue we should even do that more often as well. And maybe in the future we will. We'll see. But there were 166,000 job postings that specified CompTIA certifications last year, and that number continues to grow. Also, just to toot our own horn, CompTIA certification holders are more likely to stay in their tech job role than other tech occupation benchmarks. And then CompTIA certification holders are also more likely to earn a title bump, which almost always means a salary bump at their current employer. So those are just a few of our certs that are kind of our big 3, if you will, of our most well-known certifications: A+, Net+, Security+. So speaking of, let's talk about our certification pathways. Just as a refresher, again, we're a not-for-profit. We're also a vendor-neutral IT organization association. So when we create our certifications, we first have to understand, is there a need for this job, and what is this job? So we're a pretty large organization. We have more than 500 staff now, but we can't just take all of our time to create any certification we think of. We have to be very smart about it and very meticulous about it, and really understand, like, what are the jobs that are going to be growing now, but also in the future, in the next 10 years plus. What are the jobs that are, going to be kind of here to stay and that are going to be in most demand in the IT space? So we do a lot of research to understand, like, what's the need? And then we do an industry-wide job task analysis to understand, working with the industry, what are the knowledge, skills, and abilities that somebody needs to do this specific IT job or job roles that the certification would map to. So we understand that. And then we bring in the subject matter experts, actually the headquarters in Chicago, or technically Downers Grove, Illinois, where they help us write the exam. They're literally helping us understand, like, what are the objectives of the exam? What are the domains? And specifically, what are the questions that we should ask, and how should we ask them? Should these be performance-based questions? Should they be multiple choice? What type of mix do we have there? And then again, as I mentioned, we have to perform ongoing maintenance by updating them every 3 years because they're ANSI ISO accredited. The nice thing too, one nice thing that came out of COVID is it really forced us to change our testing so that not only do we have, of course, testing at brick and mortar centers like Pearson VUE, they're our exclusive testing provider, but now we also have online testing where you can test anytime, anywhere you want in the comfort of your own home, as long as you meet certain criteria, like you're in a closed room. You have to show the camera your room and show the proctor that you don't have any notes, and it detects if you're typing or looking around and things like that. So I think more than half of our certification testing now is done via online, which is pretty cool. So taking a look at our pathways. So most people, I would say, know us by what we kind of informally call our big three. A+, which was our first certification. That is the certification for entry-level help desk support. Network Plus and Security Plus. These are really the backbone of our different pathways. And our different pathways, we have three of them specifically. We have infrastructure, cybersecurity, and our newest is data and analytics. So with infrastructure, you start getting into things like Server Plus, Linux Plus, and Cloud Plus. With security, things like Cybersecurity Analyst Plus or CYSA Plus. That was started, I don't know if you remember the big Target hack that was several years ago. That hack really opened everyone's eyes in terms of, oh my gosh, we didn't even detect these threats. And we need skills and professionals to be able to detect these things. And that's what a cybersecurity analyst is. It's able to go in and detect the undetectable, things that firewalls and malware do not, tools do not stop. That there needs to be more advanced threat protection around these things. And so for a while, the cybersecurity analyst for several years was the fastest growing job in America, not just in tech, but in America. So that's an example of a response that we made to a very fast growing job in tech. And then Pen Test Plus is kind of the opposite. So if CISA Plus is defend, Pen Test is attack, but ethically. And so those are two of our newest cybersecurity certs, along with CASP, which is actually going to be renamed Security X for expert level. So the plus are the professional level, but we're going to have some renaming to X for some of the expert level certs, and that's Advanced Security Practitioner. That's a very challenging cert, but a great one for people to get up to that point. And then our newest pathway, as I mentioned, is data and analytics. So of course, data is everywhere. It's like IT. If you think about it, IT is in every job, is in every company. Every company has IT needs. Same thing with data, or if they don't realize that, they will eventually. So we have Data Plus, which was our first cert we launched last year around data analytics. There was, I think, more than 250,000 job postings alone requiring data analytics skills. We have Data Systems Plus, which we just launched last year as well. And our newest one, it's actually not going to be data science, it's going to be called Data X. Again, X for expert level. So I need to change that slide graphic, but that is our newest cert that will be launched this year. We also have a couple of other certs. We have Project Plus, which is around project management. We have IT Fundamentals, which is around kind of an inch wide and an inch deep and a mile wide in terms of IT kind of digital literacy. That's a nice precursor to A+. To find out if somebody has an interest in getting into tech. That's a nice cert there. And then the other thing that we did was we acquired a company last January called TestOut. And we acquired them because they were really big in the academic space in particular. They have a lot of products that map towards CompTIA certifications, but focus specifically on the needs of academia. There's a lot of needs for academia. In other words, the reading level, the ability to work with their LMS systems, the ease of teaching, just the reporting. There's just tons of needs for academia. And while we were doing some great things in academia, we recognized that also as an area in which we could grow quite a bit. And so we acquired that company. And one of the cool things that we acquired from them is also their platform, their content platform. So we got into the content business several years ago, and we have our products called CertMaster Learn, Labs, and Practice, which is e-learning, integrated labs, and then practice. So like practice exams, practice questions, and so forth. They had their own products as well. And what we're doing is over the course of the next several years, we'll be integrating kind of the best of our stuff with the best of the TestOut products to create one product line. And so that's really exciting. And the other exciting thing is they have their own content platform. So for our Learn, Labs, and Test Prep, products, we were having to work with other companies to host those on their platforms, which is good, and it allowed us to get into the content space rapidly. But the downside is that if we want to make any changes or improvements to those platforms, it wasn't up to us, it was up to our vendors, and they may or may not have wanted to do that. It's up to them. If enough of their customers were saying, yeah, this is functionality that we want, then they would probably do it. But if not, if it was something really specific that we wanted but not everyone else did, probably not. So now we acquired TestOut's platform, which allows us to make improvements and more functionality whenever we want. So it's a really great, important acquisition for us in terms of our content. More on that soon. Again, our main products are CertMaster Learn, Labs, and Practice. Learn is a really cool internet-based learning product, which has videos. It's got performance-based questions. It's got cool links. It's got flashcards. It's got everything. So it's great for in-person or remote learning. And then Labs, if any of you are not using Labs in terms of your education, I would really strongly encourage you to do that, because the Learn is the acquisition of knowledge. The Labs is the application of that knowledge. And that's really the key part of your job, right? It's applying the knowledge. Anyone can know something, but can you put that into use? Can you apply that? And the practice is to confirm the mastery of all of that, the knowledge and the application of it, and that leads to certification. So that's a little about our certifications and learning products. I wanted to take some time to go through some complementary resources that we want you to take advantage of. Don't worry about taking a bunch of notes on this, because I'm going to send you a link. In fact, just to not distract you, I'll post it a little bit later. But I'm going to share my screen and go through a few of these. And again, don't worry about taking notes on all these. I will be sharing this in a little bit. So for one thing, we have, get this out of the way. This is not the screen I wanted to share. We have a career pathway tool. So we focus on 5 of the top kind of pathways when it comes to tech. Let's take cybersecurity. That's always a hot one. If you click on that, then you can see, what does a cybersecurity specialist do? Median national salaries, annual job postings, job growth above national average. All these are above national average. And then if you learn more, then you can get into, okay, what are the different types of, what are the differences between experience levels from beginner to intermediate to advanced? What are the salary ranges, number of job postings, the number of certifications available at each level? Let's take intermediate, for example. Talks about some of the job titles at an intermediate cybersecurity level. The required skills at those levels. You can even click on here and get more information about what a security analyst might be. And then you see pathways in terms of not just CompTIA certifications, which we're really foundational, especially, not only, but we're really recognized, of course, as foundations or a backbone, but also other partner certifications that you might get along the way. So in this case, some of the CompTIA certifications you might get at the intermediate level or CISA Plus and Project Plus and Pentest Plus. But there's also some good other partner certifications out there, like from ISACA or GIAC or Cisco. So what's cool about us, again, being vendor neutral, is a lot of vendor specific certifications, they recommend getting ours first. And we recommend, getting the vendor specific certifications as you move through your path, because you want to get the foundational stuff first, and then, really specific product certifications as you determine, that's where you want to go. So that's our career pathway tool. Really, really cool tool. And then I'm talking about in a few minutes about another tool that's coming that's going to be even this on steroids, which I'm really excited about. I mentioned before, we do tons of great research. All this is free. Please use it. One of our main sites is called Cyber State. So this focuses on all IT jobs. And annually, we release a state of the IT workforce report. You can download that from this site. Here it is, the state of the tech workforce. This is a pretty extensive report. There's lots of great graphs and charts, just showing what's going on. I shared some of these with you today. So there's that. So feel free to download that and take a look. But we have a really cool exploration tool where you can click on, you can see the US as a whole, but then also click on specific states. Let's, for my purpose, I live in Virginia. You can see the total net tech employment there. You can see we rank number 5th as a state in the US in terms of tech employment. In terms of jobs added, we're 18th. And then you can see more specific information on the intersection of tech industry and tech employment. So in other words, how many people are working in tech industry jobs versus working for a tech company versus working in a specific tech job. The percent of our workforce in tech is 8.7%. That ranks 3rd in the US. Shows our wages. It shows some of the leading tech occupation jobs. Of course, software development is always huge. Some of the leading tech sectors. Something new we added to cyber states is, what's really cool, is this diversity index. So I was showing you a sampling of that earlier around the whole US, but you can do this per state. So again, 20% of African Americans are in the Virginia workforce overall. 9% are Latino, 49% women. But in tech, only 13% of tech workforce are Black African American, only 5 Hispanic, only 27% women. So every state is kind of similar to this. We have work to do with these groups to get more people of those groups into tech. You can see the tech job postings and so forth. So there's a lot of cool information in here. We update this pretty regularly. And soon we should have our new State of the Tech Workforce report coming out, and be sure to let you know about that. But all good stuff there. Then we have another site called, oh shoot, no, that's my report. Then we have another site called CyberSeek. So we got a grant from NICE, the National Initiative for Cyber Education. Similarly, this is similar to CyberSeek, but focuses just on cybersecurity jobs. So if I go similarly to the state map, I can click on a specific state. You can also even hone in on a specific metro area as well if you wanted to. So you can do that. So I'm, of course, in the Northern Virginia area. We can do that. So you can see, total job openings. You can see the ratio of open cyber jobs versus the number of people that are qualified to work those jobs. Really, in every state, it's pretty poor in terms of the number of cybersecurity workers versus the demand for the jobs. And then the different NICE framework job roles. They create a framework around this that we map to in terms of our certification. So it shows those. You can see the number of certification holders and what the main certification holders are in these cyber jobs. So CompTIA Security Plus, of course, is always a really popular one. And you've got others as well. And then the number of openings that are requesting certification, what those are. So that gives you a nice idea of what Northern Virginia looks like in particular, but you can go anywhere in the US. Then you also have these cool career pathways, let's say like cybersecurity specialist. You can see the job openings, and that can map to cybersecurity analyst, consultant, vulnerability tester. If you click on that, you can see things like average salaries, common job titles for that role, total job openings, top skills requested, top certifications requested, the NICE framework, top future skills requested, and the percent of job growth related to those over the next 5 years. So just some really good information. We get major kudos for our research. Please take advantage. It's one of the best things that we have. If you're on those sites, and this is not all of our research, I just want to highlight a couple things. I'll highlight links to other things as well in a little bit. But if there's anything you're not finding, let me know, and I can have our research team dig in a little bit more. I'm not saying they'll absolutely find what you're looking for, but a lot of times they have more information that they can find or request. So let me know about that. Another great tool that we have is this IT salary calculator. So a lot of people wonder, okay, well, if I wanted to get into, let's say, a network architect role, and I wanted to work in Georgia in the, let's say, Atlanta metro area, what could I expect to make? So this will then spit out a chart showing early career salary bands versus advanced career salary bands. So it gives people a good idea of what their earnings potential is, no matter where they're living. Because obviously that's going to be, Atlanta's going to be very different from Roanoke, Virginia, where I'm from originally, versus Boise, Idaho, versus whatever. So it takes all those things into consideration and gives people a pretty accurate salary band for whatever job they're looking for in IT. So that's a pretty cool tool. I mentioned before about the challenge we have with companies that are over-speccing their job postings. Oh, I need someone with a master's degree for this help desk job, which is, ridiculous. So we created something to hopefully help them. Please pass this along, in your organizations or others that you talk to, because this could really help them. It's going to help them find more workers because they're probably going to get more applications because it's going to be more accurate. So, I could type in help desk analyst, let's say, and then get started. And then it basically just really simply walks you through. You're just going to check boxes as far as like, what are the essential skills and abilities? What are the secondary skills that they need to be able to do? Office 365. What are some of the situational technical skills they need to be able to work on? Productivity, whatever. And it's just as you walk along, I'm not going to go through it, but as you walk along, it just takes about 3 or 4 steps, and then it'll spit out an accurate job posting for you. So this is designed to, help both sides, the job seekers and the people looking for to hire these folks, to create a more accurate environment as far as the job postings that they're looking for. So, feel free to pass this along as well. Let me jump back to my PowerPoint, a couple of other resources that I want to share. So another tool that's coming out this month, I'm told, that I'm super excited about is a career exploration tool. We talked about there's all these career changers out there, 44 million actively looking to change jobs. And we want as many of those people to at least consider IT careers. But as we said, there's a confidence gap. People that don't even consider IT careers, they consider that the hardest industry to get into, in fact, just, not necessarily with any knowledge of why, but they just perceive that, oh, I'm not great at science and math, I wouldn't be good in IT or whatever it is. So we're trying to overcome that. And so what we're creating is a career exploration tool. And so what we've done is, for the past year plus, we've been doing interviews of people that transitioned from non-tech roles to tech roles. And we've interviewed them based on the top 30 job roles in tech. So within each one of those, you'll hear from actual people that made the transition and what that was like for them. What do they do on a day-to-day basis? What do they find rewarding? What was challenging? What was their education like getting over into this role? So that really helps kind of humanize these roles, and hopefully people will watch these videos and be like, oh, I'm just like her. I can do this. I had her same background, so I could do this as well. And I hope it will inspire people to take a look at these tech careers. And there's also going to be things like a career toolkit that'll provide some actionable next steps. Like, okay, you got me. Now I'm interested. What do I do next? So there'll be some actionable next steps via training and career pathways and things like that. So I think that career exploration, that career pathway tool I showed you before, I think it's going to be that like on steroids, really. So I can't wait for this to come out. I'll be sure to pass it to Dennis to then pass to you guys to utilize and share. But this is one of the most exciting tools I think we've come up with in a while. And so again, that should be coming anytime this month is what I'm told. We also have a Find Tech Jobs Now. We partner with ZipRecruiter to have this site that has tech jobs. So people looking specifically for tech jobs can work through ZipRecruiter to find those. And then I mentioned our foundation. So we're trying to tackle, so our biggest issue, and I probably should have said this at the beginning, is the tech workforce. We need far more people considering tech careers. And so you saw what we're doing with the career exploration tool to try to tackle that from a perspective of career changers. But we also want to hit up people early on, specifically middle schoolers. Because what we found is once these children get to high school, they've already pretty much made up their mind as far as at least their initial pathway, at least what initial job they're interested in. I know my daughter's in high school. She's already decided she wants to be in criminal justice, for example. So she's already made up her mind. Now, will she be there forever? No, maybe not. But that's at least the initial path she wants to explore. So if you wait till high school to present them with tech, it's probably too late if they haven't already taken a look at it. So we have a really cool program called Tech Girls. And this provides introduction to technology in a really fun, engaging way. Now, Tech Girls is not done in school. It's done for middle school girls, but it can be hosted by any organization. Dennis, if you want to host one, that's awesome. You can do it online or in person. If any of you guys on the call want to host this, it's free. We provide programming for all this. And there's different programs you can choose from. It could be around coding, cybersecurity, app development, cyber safety. There's like 9 or 10 different modules you can choose from that you can host. And TechWorlds was actually a separate association, and we were so impressed with what they were doing that we bought them because we wanted to focus more on the middle school audience. And so we bought them, and they've served more than 40,000 middle school girls. It's a great way of community engagement to host these, again, either online or in person. We provide everything you need, even marketing for it. You just need some people that can help facilitate. And when I say facilitate, I mean, it's really not challenging. Really, anyone could facilitate these programs. So it's a really great way to engage with young people and get them exposed to tech. And again, like a fun, engaging way. And by the way, CompTIA Spark is our foundation. We also have really cool programming for middle schoolers that can be used in school as well. So if any of you guys are interested in this, feel free to let me know. I am going to post this link. So this is my digital solutions catalog. This is like a virtual catalog that has links to all of these great resources I shared with you, especially on pages 12 through 14. I am going to post this in the chat right now, and you can knock your socks off with, oops, let me find that. I'll put this in the chat right now. So you can use this and bookmark it. And what's cool is anytime we add new products or resources, you'll automatically have that because it will be updated, on I guess the term is a macro level. So it will just automatically update in your link. So as we add new programs, new resources, like the career exploration tool, once we have a link to that, that'll be automatically in there. So please feel free to bookmark that tool. And then I think you'll see a lot of great resources that I covered. So please utilize that. If you have questions about any of that stuff, please let me know. My contact information is in there as well. But just to make sure, oh shoot, where did my share thing go? Let me just share my screen here real fast. Here's my contact info as well. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Again, the Digital Solutions Catalog has my information as well. If you ever want to set up a call with me, I have a Calendly link as well. So feel free to do that. But that's pretty much my presentation. Sorry, I blabbed a lot. I hope you found this informative. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you might have on any of this. So I think we've got about 7 minutes now, just about. So any questions on anything? You're welcome to post in the chat or raise your hand. And let me know if this was helpful. I covered a lot in my talk, so I just want to give you kind of a full scope of what's happening in the industry, what we're doing about it, some of the challenges, and then also some of these resources that we hope you are able to utilize. So Dennis, I hope that was what you're looking for, and if not, I'm happy to come back and bore you again with other stuff.
that was good stuff, and I'm glad I recorded it because I can go back and actually re-look at some of the information. There's a lot of stuff that you covered, and I'm hoping that everybody got as much out of it as I did. I'm thinking about changing my career trajectory after looking at some of those numbers, but there's probably little that I can do at this point in my career. I think I'm kind of done. But what I'll do is in the members section of the Blacks in Technology website, a lot of this information is available as far as the links. But we will be posting this on the BIT YouTube channel as well. So if anybody else wants to go back and take a look, that information is gonna be posted there as well.
I do see there's a question from Leona, and thank you. I'm glad it was helpful. We do have, so just as a matter of fact, so Dennis, Blacks in Technology is a not-for-profit partner with CompTIA, and so Dennis actually gets access to discounts for our vouchers as well as our content. So you can go through him. He can actually, order stuff for you at a discount. Sorry for speaking for you, but that is the case. You guys are partners and can order stuff for you. So I would say Dennis is your man for that.
And what I'll do is I'll drop the link in the chat here for folks to get to the registration. But if you are a BIT member and you log into your account, there is a link that I'm going to share that will direct you to, as I mentioned, the member section. But this will get you there as well as a direct link. And if you're not a member,
And
free to join.
yeah, and by the way, you know, we work with. I mentioned how we're working with career changers. Hopefully, we're working with middle schoolers, but we do everything in between. So we have partner programs for corporations who are trying to upskill the workforce. In terms of like certification partners, we have partners that are for-profit training centers like New Horizons Global Knowledge. We work with academic institutions like high schools, two-year colleges, four-year colleges. We work with the government. The Department of Defense is one of our biggest customers. They mandate, I think it's up to 7 or 8 of our certifications now, depending on what security level you are. So we work with everybody in terms of partners, and Blacks in Technology is one of those for sure. Work with a lot of not-for-profits as well. So anyone who's kind of working to upskill the tech workforce with our certifications, we will work with. So
There's one more in the Q&A from Andrea.
Oh, is that from earlier? I don't see it. Do you mind reading it?
It says, since Security Plus SYO -601 is retiring this year, will it still hold as much credibility, or would it be better to prepare for SYS 701?
Well, yes. I mean, you need to. The tricky thing in IT is things are always changing. Obviously, there are, you know, the objectives of each certification, like, you know, from version to version. I mean, I would say change that, like the content, I would say changes at least 20-25% every version, you know, over a 3-year period. So 601 will hold you for a while, but you know, you want to stay up to speed on everything new. So that's why we refresh our certs every 3 years, because, you know, at some point 601 will be, you know, practically obsolete, so to speak. I mean, some things, some foundational stuff remains true, but there's always new essential objectives and things to learn in security, especially. I mean, that changes drastically. So I would encourage you to work towards the 701 as well. Not necessarily you have to do it immediately, but, you know, over the course, you know, your 601 is basically good for 3 years. If you take the 701, you know, before that, then, you know, at some point, then that kind of gives you another 3 years to be completely up to speed on everything. So I hope that answers your question. We do have some CompTIA. I think we have this. I'm pretty sure we have a CompTIA like CE. There are other ways besides getting the cert to keep up with things. Although I do think getting the new cert is the most effective way. But there are some like continuing education units where, by doing various things, going to basic webinars, doing certain job roles, whatever, you can accumulate like CE credits towards the certification. So, you know, you can, let me actually, sorry, while we're here, let me find that link and post it here. Sorry. Here is a link that talks all about how to about our continuing education there. So I just posted that in the chat. So hopefully that helps as well. A couple of ways in which you can do that. But I mean, in my biased opinion, I do think it's always good to, you know, to get the next cert as soon as you can. Like I said, you've got kind of a 3-year grace period in a way with the 601. But it is important to get the new one, I think, at some point. Stuff changes rapidly.
We got
anything else?
one more question. It looks like we 1 minute. I'm kind of cram as much in as we can at Kirk's time.
And I can stay extra if you need me to, if you have questions. If not, I don't have another call for like a half hour. So if you need me to.
Great. And feel free to raise your hand in the chat, in the participant list, and we'll allow you to speak. We'll turn your mic on.
Yeah. And there's my email again too, just in case you think of something later. And I'm a good connector as well. I can connect you to anyone you need within the organization, depending on what you need. So just let me know.
All right. Well, if there aren't any additional questions, Kurt, I want to thank you for your time. It's always a pleasure. I think we should probably do this like at least once a quarter, just to, kind of provide some updates. And as we get new members and folks who are looking for upskilling opportunities, and they know what's fresh and current. But this will live online, as I mentioned. Look forward to hearing from the folks who participated. And if you do have additional questions once we wrap, don't hesitate to reach out to me either. But with that, I'm going to stop the recording.